Today I want to talk about the pros and the cons of an early federal retirement. The plan was never to retire at 62, but 57 is definitely a few years early. This came up in conversation last week with a federal employee. And a recent comment that really resonated with me was, Justin, the real question we want answered is, should we retire early? And I know so many folks out there are feeling the exact same way, especially with all the changes that are occurring within the federal workforce. So I want to take a few minutes and just kind of talk through how we can try to answer that question, should we retire early, by thinking through what some of the pros and the cons might be. And these things might be a pro or a con, just depending on what your situation looks like specifically, because everybody's situation is very unique. First things first, we got to remember opportunity cost is out there. It's on both sides of the equation when it comes to our time, our most valuable resource, and of course, being financially ready to retire and having the opportunity to spend our time doing the things that we want, that we love to do. Creating balance there is our ultimate goal with financial planning. It's not about having the most resources. It's about being able to use our time to do the things that we love and still have the security on the back end that we need. Now, I will start off by saying this. We've had so many conversations around retirement this year with federal employees, and everyone's kind of feeling the same, feeling less than excited about where federal employment is, where it's heading. So you're not alone in feeling that way, but we do still want to make smart decisions around, what comes next, whether that's leaving federal service for an encore career, whether it's sticking it out for a few more years. And this includes so many federal employees who believe in the mission and ultimately just want to serve. I've said this recently, but I do believe the pendulum is going to swing back in the other direction. Things will change. We just have to be patient. And I know that's a difficult thing, easier said than done, right? All right, so let's break this down. Let's try to keep this simple and to the point. The first thing I'll start off with, and I want to break these into chapters here. We're going to talk about financial readiness. We're going to talk about embracing change. We're going to talk about some of the challenges and the risks that you might face with an earlier federal retirement. Then we'll try to weigh all those against one another to come to a good decision point. So a lot of great info. Stay with me in the video here today. First, I'm going to start off with, we can't deny the attractiveness of retiring with a substantial pension. And the FERS pension is just that. It's likely worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, depending on your years of service and your multiplier. So really nice benefit. Guaranteed income is a powerful thing when it comes to retirement. And while I'm not saying to hang on for additional years of federal service, we know those additional years are quite valuable. A simple example, let's say your high three is 150,000 and you got a 1% multiplier. If we're trying to think about what the next 5 years would equate to in terms of additional benefits on your pension, we got to include pay raises and that sort of thing, but just breaking it down as simple as possible, we could say 150 grand times 1% is $1,500. So $1,500 a year added to your pension. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. If we're equating that to portfolio dollars, that might be somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 in portfolio money you'd need. If we're talking about annuity dollars, it's probably about half of that. So it's still a really significant benefit to add $1,500 in guaranteed income. Whatever your multiplier in your high three is, that's how you can kind of figure out what it's worth. So would you be able to save that equivalent in a portfolio if you left federal service? Are you okay without those additional increases to your pension? And that leads us into the first topic, which is financial readiness. Ultimately, this could be a pro or a con, right? If you're financially ready, it's a huge pro to be able to retire early. If you're not quite there, it can be a con. It can create a lot of challenges. And when we talk about financial readiness, we want to look at your retirement income worksheet. I talk about this all the time. And that's simply just breaking down what your income sources look like versus your expenses. So your first pension, is there a special retirement supplement? When Social Security kicks in, how many gap years you're going to have? What does your investment retirement portfolio look like? How much income can you draw from that? Match that up against your expenses. Expenses are likely to be somewhat similar to what they are today when we strip out taxes and savings. 80 to 100% is kind of what we see for most retirees in retirement versus what they're spending today. So you can use those reference points. Your resources are what they are. You have the opportunity to continue to build those by continuing employment, whether it's at the federal level, considering an encore career, or just picking something up that you like to do that will allow you to contribute to the needs of the household. Maybe there's a spouse that's still working. So factor all that into your retirement income worksheet. And then, if you're in a strong position, that's really a pro. You got your time now, you're financially ready. Let's make it happen. If you're not quite there, then it makes sense to consider the alternatives and look at the opportunities that exist for you. We've seen this go both ways with federal employees coming out of service. The job market is a little tight right now, but it depends on your situation, what your skill set and experience are, how desirable you might be for a future employer. And you can kind of feel that out and see what those opportunities look like if you want to have an encore career, or if you just want to pursue something that will contribute to the household needs. That might be something easier to find. Not working at all is a different thing. If you're ready to do that, great. One caveat here is if you need to dip into TSP, IRA, investment money early, tread lightly there. Because if you're tapping that money at 55 versus 62 or 65, that's a huge difference. You're putting a lot of stress on the portfolio by dipping into it that early. You're limiting your growth potential, you're increasing your sequence of returns risk, and all the things that go into making an investment portfolio sustainable, making it create sustainable income over a long period of time. Hopefully we're talking about 30 plus years, right? So that's an extended period of time. So financial readiness can be pro or a con depending on exactly how your situation shakes out. Again, I love talking about creating balance here. I'm not all about, creating as many assets on the balance sheet as possible because I think our time is our most valuable resource. We got to balance those two things. Okay, second thing, embracing change. This one's more straightforward, right? A big pro here is time to pursue your passions. If you're not going to work in the future, you got your time and now you can do what you love if you're financially ready. This can also work against you if you come out of federal service, you're feeling financial stress, you don't have the time and the ability to really do the things that you want to do. So embracing that change might be a little more difficult. And I would add in here too, the importance of activity and purpose. I tell this story all the time about one of my long-term clients who retired early. The key for his retirement has been activity and purpose. He's been able to do things that he loves doing that also help people in the community. He loves to serve the community. And so he's doing the things he loves. He's feeling a sense of accomplishment. He's paying it forward. And he's really been able to thrive in retirement based on that concept of activity and purpose. What are some of the challenges and risks of an early retirement? Well, adjusting to a new routine can be difficult for folks. Some people hit the ground running, you're out of federal employment, it's great. But for other people, it can be more of a challenge if you don't have that activity and purpose that I just talked about lined up. So adjusting to the new routine can be a challenge. Having a plan to stay mentally and physically fit. I mean, this is really key because it's not just physically fit. You need to stay mentally engaged as well and stay sharp. That's something that we do see fade a little bit if you don't have a plan to be active and engaged. Financial instability. So we talked about this in our first big bullet point is that financial readiness. Without financial stability, it can create a lot of stress. It can create a lot of risk. And, we're pretty adaptable. So I will say that so we can change our situations, but only to a certain extent. Our resources are what they are. You got to find the situation that fits for whatever your resources are. And, if there's instability there, that can create, a lot of stress, that can create an unhealthy environment. So let's wrap this up. Weighing those pros and those cons against one another. As I mentioned, all the concepts that we talked about could be viewed as a pro or a con, just depending on what your situation looks like and what you're trying to accomplish with your early federal retirement. Okay. First steps, assess your mental and financial readiness. So maybe you're ready for that encore career, the transition to whatever's next. Maybe you're not quite ready to give up your federal career yet. All right, that's important to assess and work through, as well as the financial readiness. So how do the numbers support you being able to leave, your income changing? What are those expenses? It's important to not discount all those big expenses, healthcare, taxes, insurance, other things that are going to carry on throughout your retirement. Of course, you want to be able to enjoy things as well. Considering how you're going to embrace the changes, and then thinking about those challenges and risks that we talked about. So just a little bit of information that might help get the wheels turning on how to think through that question of should we retire early? What are those pros and cons of an earlier retirement from federal service? And, of course, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just a matter of getting you to think through all these different things. That's really our goal here, give you some information and provoke some thought, and we can learn from each other. So hope you found some value here. If you have, give us a like and a subscribe. And please, if you're working through something, use this as a resource. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you next time.